Hey folks, Kozzi here, drafting for Pick 1 Pack 1. We've just come off the back of having a rather underwhelming control match, so I'm hoping to get my aggro back on again, but we'll have to see what the packs give. Shadowlands Guide is not super great and limited. There's not a lot of 1-drops that we really want to play, let alone ones that we want to get back for free. I think the choices here are between the two uncommons being Permafrost and Gilded Glaive, and also the Torch. Permafrost is probably the slightly stronger piece of removal, although I do have a personal preference for getting into red and Torch. And Gilded Glaive is a phenomenal weapon which can take away a game on its own if left unattended. So, which direction do we want to head in? I think that I've been itching to get aggressive, so let's take the Torch just based on my personal preference. Out of these, Feeding Time is premium removal. Friendly Wisp is an interesting card in the right deck. You can definitely work around it. Snowslinger adequate. Infantry is interesting but not great. Otherwise we could just take the Fixing. But removal is removal. Let's take it and see what direction we head in. And Stonescar Maul is a very good card indeed. It does exactly what you want to do right at the end of the game. Smash face and get damage in. And so it's effectively a removal plus a bit of extra damage. And if I can get into a Warcry build, then it could become a very scary card indeed. We have some Fixing. We have an Execute, which is a piece of premium removal. Centaur kind of fits into a Arcano deck. Acolyte is a reasonable card, but I think we'll keep taking the best cards in the pack, and in this instance it's the removal. And now we get our first quite challenging decision. These are three very late Stonescar cards that are all very, very good. Only Ronin lets you get off to a phenomenal start. Rebel Sharpshooter, if you get any kind of bonus onto it, is almost impossible to deal with in combat, and Dark Return is value. Currently we've been given, well, the Torch was my first pick, so I can't really consider that being passed through, but we did have a late Stonescar Maul, and this does represent two late fire cards, so I think that they're looking a little bit more open to my right. So it's really a case of just how aggro I want to get. Because I do feel as though the Rebel Sharpshooter is a genuine opportunity cost to lose for playing the Ronin. But as I said, if we get the Warcry on these, it becomes even better still, so I think we'll take a look at it and see how we go. Brimstone Altar. Once per turn, you may sacrifice a unit to do 2 damage to the enemy player. Geez, that's a bit of a build around, isn't it? But it would really require me to go heavily on the tokens. Devour's the kind of card I'm happy to have one of. I think objectively the most powerful card here is Gorgon Swiftblade. It's not the kind of card I want to be splashing for, but it also is the kind of card that does go with this Feeding Time, and so it could just be that we just splash into the Torch. For pack 1, especially when there's not too much opportunity cost in comparison to this power level, I'd rather take it and see what I get given. And then we have a late Raid Leader as well as a late Ornate Katana. Raid Leader is a reasonable top end. 5 for 4 is pretty much on the line. For the vanilla test, the fact that he has charge and can get in straight away can definitely throw off combat maths when people have been assuming that you don't get to attack, and giving your next creature charge as well can really cause a lot of chaos. Or the Katana is a solid equipment that gives you card draw. As it currently stands, I think I'll see more of these later on. I think we'll take the Raid Leader for now and see where it takes us. And if we're getting in our aggro, Ghost Form would be more useful with the Stoneblade. Dusthoof Brawler is a top end that fits better to the plan of the red deck, but I'm unlikely to be wanting too many 5s. It is possible that I could consider putting this in into a Stonescar deck as a piece of evasion. Given that there's 2 possibilities with this, this does work though. Let's take a look and see how it works out. Rifle or Bouncer. I think in this scenario I'm probably more likely to be playing the Bouncer. Yeah. And there comes the Brawler anyway, so... And okay, so those late cards definitely cement me looking into a Stonescar colour. And possibly we could consider splashing blue just for the Feeding Time. So the Torment appears in the void. At the start of your turn, if the Tormentor is in the void, you play a 1/1 Spiteling, which is a lot more interesting than Saproling, and when it dies it deals damage, but there's no way we're ever going to get to that level of Shadow Influence. Out of these, I think my choices are the Rebel Sharpshooter or the Rapid Shot. For now, so shiny. For now, I think the Sharpshooter works better with my plan, so we'll grab him. Cutthroat is a reasonable creature in this build. Runic Revolver is a great card for the top end. We don't want too many 5s, and we are short on a curve right now, but I think we'll have a reasonable opportunity to build out our curve later on. Grasping at Shadows could have been interesting if we would have taken the Tormentor before. We could have found ourselves in an unusual build space that I've never been in before, but as we've passed it through the Keeper instead, I just think we'll take the Revolver. Karmic Guardian is a phenomenal card, but it's not for us this time, so I think we'll just take the Life Drinker instead. And it's interesting to note just how little fire we're seeing heading in this direction. If I'm to switch over to Feln, it'll be basically at the opportunity cost of those 3 cards. But I did see fire going very late. If I grab the Slumbering Stone, it's not exactly in fitting with this unless I happen to get some kind of sacrifice effect, and there are a couple in Shadow. So if we see the 3/3 guy, let's see what we can see. Yeah, definitely heading in the left. Or people who are passing from my left. There's someone sitting in fire pretty close to me. We'll stay on plan. Forsworn is reasonable, but I think the Guerrilla Fighter is the way to go. And now I have a choice between a Madness and a Xenon Destroyer. I think I'd rather the Xenon Destroyer in this scenario. It's not as though we have any sack effects yet. Madness could make me want to choose towards picking it, but it's not enough to really have me excited. As we've already got a 6-drop, I don't think I'll be taking them all. And now we're just taking whatever's left to come around. Steward of the Past is a very welcome addition to the deck. I'll just grab it once I finish cleaning up here, so I can get a better sense of what my curve looks like. There's nothing that I'm really missing out for picking it, so sweet, we'll grab him. And now, Bloodright Callus is only useful if we're playing with tokens, which this deck doesn't look as though it's doing. Pyrodept is on curve. Blackguard Sidearm works if we're going aggressive. Devour could give me more utility out of my Slumbering Stone, but it's way too early for me to be thinking about picking a Devour. Granite Acolyte is both a piece of equipment as well as a creature, which would be great if we managed to find a Smuggler's Stash. And currently we are a little low on our creature count, so I think that will make me want to pick the Acolyte over the Sidearm. Ooh, Execute, Torch, Dark Return, Combust. I think out of these, I'd prefer to have the Torch the most. I don't think you can ever really have too many Torches. There are a couple of creatures that the Dark Return will be useful to get back, but it's not as though I've had Infiltrate creatures that excite me yet. So yeah, okay, we'll take the Torch here. And now we have a choice about just how aggressive we want to get. Brazen Daredevil is great if we have some equipment to put on her, or if she hits on the Warcry. Crowd Favorite is great if we have weapons that are cheaper than 3, and I think I currently don't have any. Potentially higher upside, potentially more aggressive pick. I want to get my aggro on. I'm sure we'll work out a way of making it work. And another very tough pick. It looks as though it's going to be an absolute feast heading in this direction and then famine afterwards. Warband Chieftain is the top end, although we are relatively well served for 5, so perhaps I just want to go for the direct damage / removal. And now I've got a choice between another 5 or a combust. I actually like the idea of having 1 combust in my deck. If I have a couple of cheap guys that get overwhelmed early, it allows me to still get some value out of them. But we're not really seeing the cheap things, which is a little worrying for me. A little worrying. I think we'll take the scheme so we can have some card selection, and this relieves me a lot. Okay, so this goes well with the combust. This also gives us creatures that we can put equipment on. Very good pickup for at this point in time. Take the spider. And there we go. Now, here's the catch. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 under 2 drops, and I want a lot more than that. This guy would allow me to splash the feeding time more easily, but I think the stash is so important to creating an archetype that I just can't ignore it. Choice between the Desperado and the Stranger. I think the upside on Desperado is enough that I'm willing to take him over the Stranger, especially whilst I got Ghost Form and Blackguard's Sidearm, so he can cause a real problem. And I think now we'll choose to fill out our curve. I could be tempted on this for having a combat trick. I definitely want 1 in my deck before the end of this draft, but I think I need to prioritize my curve right now. So this could be a quasi-combat trick / something to beef up. Otherwise I'm looking at a Spider or a Dark Wisp, neither of which are really exciting. Because I'm so underwhelmed by these, it's one of the few times that I consider actually value picking. Okay, Temper, we'll take you for the time being. And Burnout is a good drop for us. This is going to be going to other people who are going to be very happy, but I'll take my Burnout and not complain. And Plague, sure. I feel as though I can find use for that. And I think I can definitely find a use for a second Smuggler's Stash. And now all we want to do is really fix out a curve. Guerrilla Fighter, I don't think we'll be making the cut if I'm to pick it. I've already got more than enough. So I'm going to just sneaky value pick there. Are we aggressive enough to be wanting a Heavy Axe? We're not going to be wanting anything else, so I guess we'll pick it. And just hope for one more piece of love to come through. Rally could be interesting, but no, not a lot else coming through for us. Get rid of the Marshal. Okay. A little bit underwhelming draft in the end. It was tricky because it felt like from the right, Shadow and Fire was achingly open, and then from the left, both Justice and Time were achingly open, and so it's kind of hard. Well, that's not true. Like, even Primal felt open at one stage. Definitely confusing. The bright side is we look aggressive. We have some nice tricks. We definitely have that. So if we can get this curve looking reasonable, then I think we can build something out of this. This is looking a little bit more expensive and slower than I'd like it to, but so be it. So we're currently probably looking at 17 or 18. Alright, so we currently got 18. Let's see what we can do with this. Combust I'm happy with now that I've seen the assembly line. Flame Blast is great. Direfang Spider is underwhelming for this, so we'll cut it for now. I think we're not quite aggressive enough to be wanting a Heavy Axe. Ronin is fine. Slumbering Stone, it goes with the Combust. We could equip it to turn to a threat. It returns so we can block with it and get value back. So I guess we can kind of contort to fit it in, but I'm not jumping for joy with it. Is this the kind of deck that can run a scheme? I don't think we can afford to run a rally in this deck. Yeah, it feels like this deck's got a bit of an identity crisis going on, to be honest. Not a lot of cohesion. Like, it's not quite low enough to the ground to be aggressive. I don't quite have the slow guys to slow it down to consider myself a mid-ranger on the back foot. I have a really interesting array of combat tricks, which I think is the reason why I do want to keep Scheme. Combustor's a weird card because it could easily be the best card in my deck if I hit Assembly Line, and it can be a totally dead card, as could Burnout. So there's risks involved in that. The Stash, I don't feel as though I'm massively playing on theme for it because I don't have a huge number of pieces of equipment. Not loving it. Is it just too risky to have the Daredevil? Worst case scenario, I'll have the Combust or the Burnout. Yes, I have a couple of spells that are contingent on me having creatures, and I think I got too many. I think we'll ditch the Ghost form. It's possible that 17 is too greedy when I actually have this many high-end cards. Yeah, I don't think the Daredevil is right for this deck. It's a shame because she's powerful, but it just doesn't fit in. And then in the threes, they all look to be playing a decent role for me. Perhaps I'm not aggressive enough to be wanting the Blackguard sidearm, but then we're into an entirely different deck that I don't think I actually pick creatures for effectively. Yuck, 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 yuck. What I want to be doing is I want to be attacking and I want to be trading off my creatures. When I trade off my creatures, it will then allow me to eventually get to my Smuggler's Stash where I can refill. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. Yeah, no, I actually need to bring these cheap guys back in. I just don't have enough cheap creatures to be able to play without them. So I think it's up here we need to be making a couple of cuts. Is 2 Smuggler's Stash too many? Could plausibly be the best card in my deck. I never want to take the risk of having 2 in my hand. Yeah, it feels bad, but I think that's what I might need to do. Sharpshooter's great, Destroyer is perfectly fine, Plague is good, Life Drinker is good, good. I have no idea what to cut. I feel like I want most of these things. It's definitely in the 3 where I'm clunked up the most. Perhaps this is the deck that I just can't afford to be taking a turn off. See, Life Drink is actually better in my deck than normal because I have Flame Blast and I have Torch. So if I get this late in the game, I can actually gain life off my burn spells. I think Temper is weak. Could it be the sidearm? No, that gives me a lot of inertia. The problem is I'm so low on units, I can't afford to cut a unit. Perhaps Combust is just too greedy. Yeah, alright, let's take a look at that. Slightly nerve-wracking. I think if I manage to get on the play, we're going to be doing okay, but I think that goes for almost all limited decks. We have 4 cards. Yeah, okay. Now let's go down and put that combust back in. I feel as though my power level's low enough. I do need to get a little bit greedy. See if I can get away with it. Anyway, this has been a slightly dicey Stonescar stash deck. I'm not optimistic, but we'll see how we go. Hopefully it impresses me. Anyway, guys, been Kozzi here, drafting for Pick 1 Pack 1, and I look forward to seeing you in the upcoming matches. Have a good one.